I think I'm done with security. Written by, I don't want to do this. I work as a security officer downtown in a big city. Most of my job is making sure that people aren't camped out in building entryways or in the parking garages that I patrol. Mostly I just drive around and I stop if I need to remove someone from the property. But a few of my buildings require me to go inside and clear each floor, stairwell, and the parking garage, if they have one, but most don't. I'm supposed to make sure that no one's stuck inside or that someone set up shop there for the night. Inside the buildings, I have to patrol. We have little scan tags that we have to scan with our phones so our company can track that we've actually been doing our jobs. But it takes forever to scan them, and most of them are broken anyways. The people I deal with are mostly homeless. But I do get a few out-of-towners just trying to find a place to sleep in their cars for a while before getting back on the road. Regardless of who it is, I try to be polite and give directions to the nearest shelter, or non-secure block that is homeless-friendly, or to a safe place that you can legally park and sleep for the night. Most people are usually pretty understanding and will get up and go on without needing to be told twice. But some are a little more reluctant, and occasionally they're violent. The most common line that I get after nicely asking someone to vacate the premises is, "You're not a cop," which is always a fun one. But sometimes they switch it up to, "I'll kill you," or "I'm gonna wear your skin." It's a boring job with some excitement thrown in occasionally. But it pays the bills and it's really not that bad most nights. I do get a little creeped out in a few of my buildings though, two in particular. I just can't shake that feeling that I'm being watched or that someone or something dangerous is lurking just around the next corner or just on the next floor. It also doesn't help that one of the creepy underground parking garages has 0 cell signal, which is super great and not terrifying to think about at all. Now, Monday night, something happened in that parking garage that's got my stomach in knots, and it's keeping me up at night. I haven't told anyone, and I don't think that anyone close to me would actually believe me if I told them. Since I was little, I loved telling stories, particularly scary stories. I made and still make up stories to scare the crap out of my siblings, my friends, my fiancé, and even my parents. Stories about ghosts in the house or strange noises and knockings, and whatever else that my overactive imagination can conjure up. And I know that if I told them this, it would be brushed off. I just know that it would. My last rounds on Monday was at about 3 a.m., and I was finishing up on the 5th floor of one of the creepy old buildings. And, like usual, there was nothing incredibly eventful. Just a few lights out and a few doors that should have been locked that weren't. Anyway, I made my way down to the east stairs of the 1st floor, to the parking garage, so that I could scan the tag and then get out of there. Now, the tag on this floor is located outside the P1 East stairway. So I popped out, I scanned the tag with only a little difficulty, and I was about to go back through the door to head down to P2 when I heard what sounded like heavy, quick footsteps coming down the ramp. I paused and the noises faded, so I chalked it up to my mind playing tricks on me. Besides, the sliding door you need to open to enter the garage is locked, and the only way to get it open is to hold the fob near the sensor. And the only people who have one of those are employees, not to mention that they'd be driving and not walking. Anyway, I went back through the doors and continued down the steps to my next floor. As I made it to the bottom, I grabbed the handle of the door that would lead me back into the garage, and I heard the telltale sound of a door opening above me. I ripped the door open, opting not to scan the tag on this floor, and I headed straight for the west stairwell. I find that I'm far less concerned with what my boss may think about a missing scan point when I'm possibly about to die. I found myself thinking that maybe the homeless man who wanted to wear my skin is about to make good on his weird threat. I made it down to P2 and I kept going. There was only one floor between me and my car, and I was dead set on making it to the car before whoever was in here with me could catch up. The sound of the stairwell door opening from above me stopped me in my tracks. That's impossible, I thought. He was just on P1. There's no way that he had time to make it all the way down the stairs and make it to the stairwell door on the opposite side of the parking garage before I could even make it down one flight of stairs. I mean, there's just no way. Now that it was clear that whoever or whatever this was not going to let me make it to my car, I tore up the stairs. I could hear laughing like 500 nails on 100 chalkboards. It pierced through the air my entire way up to the lobby. I could see shadows below me bouncing off the walls. I yanked my phone out of my pocket, tripping over myself as I exited the stairwell into the lobby. I stared at the screen and wheeled for the X over the service bars to disappear. It finally did as I made my way out the front doors. I called 911, my voice shaking as I relayed my story to the operator. When the police showed up, I let them in the building but refused to enter myself until they had been through every floor. When the officers met me back on the street after about 20 minutes, they told me that whoever it was must be gone now. But whoever was there had managed to get in my patrol car and toss my stuff around. They said it was probably just some kids trying to scare me. I still made one of the officers walk with me down to my car before they left. When I got in, I locked my doors and I sped to the exit ramp. The sliding door seemed to take an extra long time opening, but I finally made it out. I am required to wait outside the door in my car until the sliding door shuts all the way, just so that no one gets in behind me. So I put the car in park and I waited. Just as the door was about a third of the way shut, a man appeared in my rearview mirror, right behind the door. I screamed so loud that I could see the windows shaking. He was unkempt and dirty and immediately filled me with a sense of dread. He just stood there smiling a little too wide while the door closed, lowering his head with the door to keep me in his line of sight. Just before the door was closed too far for me to see his face anymore, I saw him give a little wave and then mouth the words, "Next time." The Streets at Night, written by Boof Gang. The streets of were always peaceful at night, but it was a malignant peace. The calm before the storm. Every night I watched the road and the very odd spikes around my house. They looked like construction spikes, except made of pure night or something equally black. They had orange tape around the tops. No matter how hard I tried, they'd always be back in the ground the very next day. I always tried to figure out the intrigue of these streets. It was only today when I figured out what the malignant piece was. It's also worth a mention that I had been in the service, and I was now trying to find a job and make new friends, but I really didn't go out a lot. The house was also new to me, and it was at a very low price, which was odd, but I didn't pay it any attention. Anyway, it was around 12 at night, and I had visited my parents about an hour away. They were a nice old couple, apart from the usual quarrels, and they offered to drive me home. I accepted, getting in my mother's gray Honda. I don't remember the model, and I wish I could forget it. In fact, I wish I could forget that entire night. I got into the car, and so did my dad. He sat in the passenger seat. My mom cranked up the car and started driving off to my house. It wasn't long before my parents started yelling about the directions. And when my dad finally refused to instruct my mother, it got bad. I offered to help my father, only to discover that my GPS wasn't working. None of ours were. Even stranger than this, my parents suddenly couldn't recall where I lived. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I had a strong impulse to look behind us. My mother soon drove into an empty lot, trying to get her bearings. And then it appeared. My dad, for the first time in his life, jumped in fear as the radio tuned into distorted music, more like static, and then humming. I almost screamed, but my mother beat me to it as we observed a being in front of our car, peering out at an abandoned hospital. Why did it have to be a hospital? Its red, piercing eyes were sunken into its skull, and it looked like a starving animal. Its limbs were extremely scrawny, and its stomach was almost not visible. It was very large, about 9 feet tall. Its skin was something that reminded me of rotting paper. It was a putrid, white-yellow shade. To our horror, it started running right at the car, clearing about 30 feet in a mere 2 seconds. The noises that it made was horrendous. It sounded like a pig being gutted. The shrill battle cry of the thing made me tense up, and I hid in the back seat. Tears and sweat dripped down my face as I watched it peel off the metal casing of the car, as if it was an orange. My parents wouldn't stop screaming, and the first person that it went after was my mother. It gripped her in its iron grasp, and only then did she stop. Her entire chest had been crushed in by the thing. It was so nonchalant about murdering her, and then it grabbed my father next. He managed to choke out an "I love you" as I watched in horror as the beast ripped him in two. What made all of this even more messed up was "Goodbye Stranger" was playing on the radio. Only after it had finished with my father did it turn to me, and it extended a pale, bony hand. I tried to run, but it lifted me up. Only now did I see it smile, exposing its green and black razor-sharp teeth. "Goodbye, Jane, from now on there will be no more pain," was crooned as it held me tight. There were tears in my eyes as I choked on my own fear, and then I listened as it walked off carrying me. It made virtually no noise while it walked, and I was at my house suddenly. The purpose of the stakes was suddenly clear now. I understood that I was its canary. It thought that I belonged to it, and it would slaughter anyone who I loved. So here I am, sitting at my house while I can only think of the monstrosity that watches me from the woods. Its red eyes as deep as the shade of my dead parents' blood. The roads are only where I'm allowed, and it'll come after me if I go any further. But I have no choice. I'm going to have to make a run from it. I only have my life to lose.